Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, can I talk to you for just a moment? Can I get real with you right now? Because somebody somewhere has been sitting on their words, sitting on their voice, sitting on their power, and the silence is suffocating the people who need you most. The silence is draining the life out of dreams that were meant to be resurrected through your words. The silence is holding hostage the breakthrough that was meant to flow out of your spirit. And while you sit quiet, while you hesitate, while you hold back, somebody out there is struggling, wondering if they'll make it another day because they haven't heard what you've been called to release. You've got to understand something. Your silence isn't just about you. Oh no, it's about the purpose locked inside of you that is tied to someone else's destiny. Do you hear what I'm saying? You've been holding back because you're afraid of what they'll say, afraid of what they'll think, afraid of being misunderstood. But let me tell you something right now. Your fear is irrelevant when someone else's life is hanging in the balance. Your silence is a weapon. And whether you know it or not, it can cut deeper than words ever could. Well, but here's the thing. God didn't give you that voice, that gift, that insight just for you to bury it beneath the weight of insecurity. No, no, no. He didn't call you to sit in the corner while the world is drowning in confusion, searching for clarity that you were anointed to bring. And let me tell you, there's a ripple effect to silence. It doesn't just stay with you. It spreads, it infects, it suffocates. Some of you are silent in your homes, and your family is desperate to hear a word of hope from you. They're waiting for you to stand up and declare, we're going to make it. They're waiting for you to break through the tension, the doubt, the fear, and speak life into their weary hearts. But you're sitting there holding your peace, acting like it's not your responsibility to lead the charge. Oh, but it is. Some of you are silent in your communities, watching injustice roll through like a flood, watching dreams die, watching young people lose hope. And you're thinking, it's not my place. Let me tell you something. If God put you there, if God gave you a heart to see it, then He's also given you the strength to address it. You don't need a title to make an impact. You don't need permission to do what you were born to do. What you need is the courage to open your mouth and let the fire inside of you burn so brightly that it sets someone else ablaze. And oh, don't even get me started on the silence in relationships. Some of you have people in your life right now who are crying out for affirmation, for love, for forgiveness. But you've decided to keep quiet because it's easier than confronting the truth. Let me tell you something. The enemy thrives in silence. He sets up camp in the spaces where no one is willing to speak. And while you sit there waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for them to make the first move, waiting for the stars to align, the connection is withering, the bond is breaking, and the love is growing cold. But here's the truth. The power of life and death is in your tongue. Don't you know that? Don't you understand the authority you carry? When you speak, chains can break. When you speak, mountains can move. When you speak, darkness has to flee. But if you remain silent, you forfeit the authority you've been given. Some of you are silent because you've convinced yourself that your voice doesn't matter. Oh, but let me remind you, God didn't create anything without a purpose, and that includes you. Your voice carries weight. Your words carry power. And when you speak from the place of your calling, things begin to shift. Lives begin to change. The atmosphere begins to align with the will of God. But listen to me, your silence is robbing you of the opportunity to see what could happen if you dared to open your mouth. It's robbing you of the joy that comes from seeing someone else set free because of a word you spoke. It's robbing you of the fulfillment that comes from walking in obedience to your purpose. And let me tell you something else. There's someone out there right now who is waiting for a word that only you can deliver. They're waiting for your testimony, your wisdom, your encouragement, your love. They're waiting for you to step out of the shadows and into the light, to speak boldly, to declare the truth, to be the voice that pierces through the noise of this world and brings clarity to their confusion. Don't you see? Your silence is costing more than you realize. It's not just about the missed opportunities. It's about the souls that are attached to your obedience. It's about the lives that are waiting to be transformed by the power of your words. It's about the legacy you were meant to leave behind, the impact you were meant to make, the difference you were born to create. So I've got to ask you, how much longer will you stay silent? How much longer will you hold back? How much longer will you let fear, doubt, and insecurity dictate your actions? Because the longer you wait, the more the cost rises. The longer you hesitate, the more the enemy gains ground. The longer you remain silent, the more the people who need you suffer. Oh, but I feel something stirring in this place right now. I feel like somebody's about to break free from the chains of silence. Somebody's about to open their mouth and let the roar of purpose come forth. Somebody's about to realize that their voice was never meant to be hidden, never meant to be silenced, never meant to be muted. And let me tell you, when you speak, heaven backs you up. When you speak, the angels take notice. When you speak, the very foundations of the earth begin to tremble. Don't you know who you are? Don't you know the power that resides within you? Don't you know that you were created to make a sound that shakes the gates of hell and ushers in the kingdom of heaven? So rise up. Speak up. Let the silence be shattered and the truth be proclaimed. Let the power of your voice bring healing to the broken, hope to the hopeless, and strength to the weary. Let the sound of your purpose ring out so loudly that it drowns out the lies of the enemy. You've been silent long enough. It's time to speak. It's time to declare. It's time to let the world hear what God has placed inside of you. Because your silence, it's killing them. And your voice, it's the key to their freedom. Let me tell you something that will shake you to your core if you let it. Your silence, yes, your silence has a ripple effect far beyond what you can see with your natural eyes. It reaches into places you've never stepped foot in. It touches lives you've never even met. Your silence doesn't just stop with you, it leaks into the spaces where people are depending on what you have to say. And it leaves a void, a vacuum, a deafening absence that could be the difference between life and death for someone else. You may think your silence is harmless. You may believe that keeping quiet is the safer, more comfortable option. But let me tell you, the cost of your silence is much higher than you realize. There's someone out there right now who is battling the darkest storm of their life, someone who is clinging to the edge of hope. Someone who feels like they are drowning with no lifeline in sight. And do you know what could pull them out of that storm, that darkness, that despair? A word. Your word. You see, there are moments in life when all someone needs is a word, just one word to remind them that they are not alone. That there is hope, that there is hope, that there is purpose, that there is a way forward. But when you choose to remain silent, you withhold that lifeline. You withhold the encouragement, the wisdom, the perspective that could have been the very thing they needed to get through. Think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you were desperate for someone to say something, anything, that would let you know you weren't crazy for feeling the way you felt? Have you ever sat in silence, waiting for a friend, a mentor, a family member to acknowledge your pain, your struggle, your need? And when no one spoke, didn't it feel like the silence was louder than any words could have been? That's the power of silence. It speaks even when you don't. And often it speaks the wrong message. Your silence can be interpreted as indifference. It can feel like rejection. It can come across as abandonment. And while that may not be your intention, it doesn't change the impact. People are looking to you not because you have all the answers, not because you're perfect, but because you carry something inside of you that they need. And when you choose not to release it, you're not just holding back words, you're holding back life, hope, and possibility. You might think, well, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I mess up? What if my words aren't enough? Let me stop you right there. The enemy will always try to convince you that your words don't matter, that your voice isn't significant, that your contribution is unnecessary. But that's a lie. Your words don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Your voice doesn't have to be polished to be effective. All it has to be is authentic and available. Just imagine someone standing in a burning building crying out for help. Now imagine you're standing outside with a phone in your hand, fully capable of calling for help, but instead you hesitate. You wonder if you should intervene. You convince yourself that someone else will probably step in. And while you stand there debating, the fire grows stronger, the smoke gets thicker, and the chance to save them slips away. That's what your silence does. It leaves people in their fires, in their struggles, in their battles, without the support they desperately need. There's something you need to know right now. Your voice is not ordinary. It's not common. It's not insignificant. Your voice is a gift, a force, a weapon uniquely designed to carry the purpose that has been placed inside of you. And the moment you start to understand the power it holds, the moment you begin to walk in the authority that comes with it, you will see the kind of impact it can make. Your voice carries weight more than you think, more than you feel, and definitely more than you've been told. And the purpose it holds is not something to be taken lightly. When God created you, He didn't just give you a body and a mind. He gave you a voice and expression of the divine within you. A voice that has the ability to speak life into dead situations, to call out greatness in others, to declare truth in the midst of lies, and to bring light into places that have been consumed by darkness. You are not voiceless. You are not powerless. You carry the authority of heaven within you. And it's time to recognize what that means. There are people who think that power is in what they own, in what they build, or in what they control. But true power, lasting, eternal power, comes from the ability to speak life. It comes from using your voice to uplift, to encourage, to guide, and to transform. And let me tell you, your voice was designed for that kind of power. It was designed to align with the purpose that God has placed within you. You see, your voice isn't just a collection of sounds, it's an instrument. It's a tool. It's a vehicle through which purpose flows. And when you use it, something begins to happen. Doors begin to open. Walls begin to fall. Hearts begin to heal. Lives begin to change. Not because of who you are, but because of the purpose that flows through you when you speak. Now, let me ask you something. Why do you think your voice is often the first thing attacked when fear shows up? Why is it that when doubt creeps in, it tells you to stay quiet, to hold back, to keep your thoughts and feelings to yourself? Because the enemy knows how powerful your voice is. He knows that if you ever truly understood the authority you carry, you would shake the very foundations of everything he's built. So he works overtime to convince you that your voice doesn't matter, that your words won't make a difference, that your purpose isn't big enough to be worth speaking about. But let me tell you the truth, your voice is a threat to everything that stands in opposition to purpose. Your voice has the power to tear down strongholds, to bring clarity to confusion, and to ignite change where it's needed most. And if the enemy is fighting that hard to silence you, it's because he knows what's at stake. He knows that when you open your mouth and speak, purpose begins to take shape. The thing about purpose is that it's not passive, it's not dormant. Purpose is alive, it's dynamic, it's active. And your voice is the key that unlocks it. You can carry all the potential in the world, but if you never use your voice, that potential remains untapped. Purpose is activated when you speak. It's released when you declare it. It's set into motion when you align your words with what God has placed inside of you. Think about it. When you look back at the greatest moments of transformation in history, they didn't happen in silence. They happened because someone dared to speak. Someone dared to stand up and declare what needed to be said. Someone dared to use their voice even when it was risky, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it seemed impossible. And because they spoke, change happened. Now let's bring it closer to home. There are situations in your life right now, relationships, challenges, opportunities where your voice is needed. There are people in your life who are waiting to hear from you, who are looking to you for guidance, for encouragement, for truth. But if you stay silent, if you hold back, if you let fear keep you quiet, those opportunities pass you by. And let me tell you, there is nothing more painful than looking back and realizing you missed your moment because you chose silence over speaking. You might be thinking, but what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't have the right words? What if no one listens? Let me remind you of something. It's not about you. It's not about how eloquent you are or how perfect your words sound. It's about the purpose that flows through you. It's about the lives that will be impacted because you dared to open your mouth and speak. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be willing. Your voice carries a unique purpose that no one else can fulfill. There are things you've experienced, lessons you've learned, wisdom you've gained that were not just for you. They were meant to be shared. They were meant to be spoken. They were meant to be poured out into the lives of others. And if you don't use your voice, that purpose goes unfulfilled. But let's get real for a moment. Sometimes the hardest part of using your voice isn't the fear of failure or rejection. Sometimes the hardest part is believing that what you have to say is worth hearing. Somewhere along the way, you may have been told that your words don't matter, that your thoughts aren't important, that your voice isn't significant. And if you've been carrying those lies, let me break them off of you right now. You were created with a purpose. You were given a voice for a reason. And the world needs what you have to say. Your voice carries the power to inspire hope where there is despair, to bring clarity where there is confusion, to ignite passion where there is apathy. Your voice has the ability to speak into the lives of others and call out the greatness within them. And don't underestimate the impact of even the smallest word. Sometimes a single sentence, a single phrase, a single moment of speaking truth can change the trajectory of someone's life. But here's the thing, your voice doesn't just carry purpose for others. It carries purpose for you too. When you use your voice, when you step into the authority that comes with it, something shifts inside of you. You begin to walk in confidence. You begin to stand in your calling. You begin to see yourself not as someone who is just existing, but as someone who is actively participating in the unfolding of God's plan. You've got to stop holding back. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop second-guessing yourself. The purpose inside of you was never meant to be silenced. It was meant to be released. And your voice is the vehicle through which that purpose is carried. So when you speak, you are planting seeds of transformation. When you speak, you are creating ripples that will echo far beyond anything you can imagine. And let me tell you, the world is desperate for voices like yours. We live in a time where people are searching for truth, searching for hope, searching for something real. And you carry that within you. You carry the power to speak into the chaos and bring peace. You carry the power to speak into the brokenness and bring healing. You carry the power to speak into the confusion and bring clarity.